So my title today is empty-handed. Empty-handed. Have you ever felt like you've been empty-handed? You have nothing to give. There's nothing in your hand. See, sometimes when we're empty-handed, we have a sense that there's loss, lack, or a sense of inadequacy in our life because there's nothing in our hand. But when kingdom people are empty-handed, it gives the king something to work with. When kingdom people are empty-handed, it gives the king something to work with. See, empty hands equal an open heart. And sometimes God allows us to be empty-handed so he can fill us up. We can go from emptiness to overflow like the widow in 2 Kings who started with almost nothing and ended in an overflow. See, there's power in being empty because God uses our lack to display his sufficiency. Man, that's good right there. God uses our emptiness to display his sufficiency. See, and I want to take a moment and talk about a season from Samson's life. Do you remember Samson in the Bible? I was reading about Samson, and there's a season in his life that I want to extract and to preach about it this morning. And many of you might have known or remember Samson and Delilah, right? That's usually the story that we hear, Samson and Delilah. But did you know that Samson was previously married? His first wife was a Philistine woman from a place or a town called Timnah. Now, I want you to listen because I'm going to be talking a little bit about what happened previously to this. So stay with me, okay? See, and on their wedding day, Samson, he posed a riddle to the Philistines. If they figured out the riddle, he would give them 30 blessings. If not, the Philistines would have to bless Samson. Samson was trying to be tricky. He was trying to get something out of them. And his wife, listen, his wife, who the Bible doesn't name, under pressure, you have to remember she was from the Philistines. His wife, under pressure, went to Samson and was able to extract the answer of the riddle, and he gave it to her people, and she revealed the answer. So Samson grew angry because he felt betrayed, and because of this, he went and he killed 30 Philistine men. And in retaliation, the Philistines, they ended up giving Samson's wife to another man, and to top it off, it was Samson's best man. And then they burned her and her father's house. Man, this was a telenovela, dude. This was better than, what is it? As the World Turns. So here's the riddle. And this is the riddle that was given on the wedding day. It's in Judges 14:14. So he said, out of the one who eats came something to eat. Out of the strong came something sweet. And if you know the answer, if you know the story, there's two answers, right? The first one's honey and the second one's a lion. Now, I told you what happened, but let's go to the beginning of this failed love story. Yeah? Now then, the verses I'm fixing to read is 10 verses, but it gives you the story of what happened before all this. Are you ready? Are you with me, church? All right, here we go. Judges 14, verse 1 through 10. Can we read a little bit this morning? Yes? Okay, here we go. Samson went down to Timnah and saw there was a young Philistine woman. When he returned, he said to his father and mother, I have seen a Philistine woman in Timnah. Now get her for me as my wife. His father and mother replied, isn't there any acceptable woman among your relatives or among all your people? Listen to the answer, right? Must you go to the uncircumcised Philistines to get a wife? But Samson said to his father, get her for me. She's the right one. His parents did not know that this was from the Lord, who was seeking an occasion to confront the Philistines. For at that time they were ruling over Israel. Samson went down to Timnah together with his father and mother. As they approached the vineyards of Timnah, suddenly a young lion came roaring towards him. The Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him so that he tore the lion apart with his what? With his what? Did he have anything in his hands? He was empty-handed. As he might have torn a young goat, but he told neither his father nor his mother what he had done. Then he went down and talked with the woman, and he liked her. Sometime later, when he went back to marry her, he turned aside to look at the lion's carcass. And in it he saw a swarm of bees and some honey. He scooped out the honey with his hands and ate as he went along. When he rejoined his parents, he gave them some, and they too ate it. But he did not tell them that he had taken the honey from the lion's carcass. Now his father went down to see the woman, and there Samson held a feast as customary for young men. So these guys knew how to party, man. The feast took several days, and what I told you previously before these verses, that's what transpired. But let's go a little bit to the beginning of Samson's life, and I want you to listen because Samson's life is going to preach to us this morning. See, Samson was anointed. He had a calling, he had a purpose, and he had a destiny in front of him, as we all do. His purpose and his calling was to be the deliverer of his people, the Israelites, from the oppressors, which were the Philistines. The Philistines were ruling over Israel during this time. And see, we all have a destiny. Tell your neighbor, you have a destiny. And they need to hear it. Tell the other neighbor, you also have a destiny. See, we all have a destiny, and sometimes God uses different vehicles to get us to our destiny. Come on. Sometimes God uses different vehicles to get us to our destiny. And sometimes those vehicles aren't the ones that we would have liked for him to use. And in the case of Samson, we see that the circumstance which he was in was what was used to release him into his destiny. See, not knowing his purpose and living on passion. He was young, right? You know how young people are, real passionate. Not knowing his purpose and living on passion, but it was through his passion that he was led to his purpose. It was through his passion that he was led to his purpose. In other words, he just kind of stumbles onto his purpose. He wasn't looking for his purpose. He wasn't trying to get there. He just stumbles onto his purpose. How? By living through his passion, and his passion led him to his purpose. And I remind you that at this time, it was the Philistine people that were dominating over the Israelites. And Samson is a Hebrew boy living in an area where there are oppressors. The Philistines are dominating. And what does this boy do? My gosh. He chooses a Philistine woman to be his wife. Right? Here's where the telenovela starts. He chooses a woman from the enemy to be his wife. He's a Hebrew boy that chooses a girl from the race that was dominating his people and the property. And they were dominating in an ugly way. As I told you before, they went and they took his wife and they burned her in her father's house. They were dominating the land. They were dominating the people. And Samson goes and he chooses a Philistine woman. See, and when viewed through the lens of race, social class, or any other perspective, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. A Hebrew boy that is being seized by the Philistine, and then he chooses a Philistine woman to be his wife. Man, and listen, how many parents do we have in the house? Imagine if you were a parent and you were the parent of Samson. How would you have felt? Listen to the response of the parents in verse 3. Isn't there an acceptable woman among your relatives or among all other people? They're saying, no hay otra? Out of everybody, this is the one you have to choose? They said, must you go to the uncircumcised Philistine to get a wife? But Samson said to his father, get her for me. She's the right one for me. And in verse 4, it says, his parents did not know that this was from the Lord. See, the parents weren't happy at all about this. They weren't happy at all because they knew that this would complicate his life. It will complicate his purpose. It will complicate his life from that point forward. It will complicate the life of their son. Have your son or your child ever made a certain decision and you knew that things were just going to get complicated? Somebody lifted up their hands over there. This was going to complicate his life. And man, sometimes life is complicated. Sometimes life is complicated. And isn't it funny how some of our lives are just complicated in such a way that we are so good in one area, but so bad in another area? Come on, someone speak to me this morning. We are so good in this area, and everybody looks up to us in this area, but if they looked at our lives in this other area, man, they would just stand there and say, y eres pastor, right? And you go to church, right? So good. It's complicated sometimes because we can be so good in one area, but at the very same time, so bad in another area. And sometimes life is complicated. We're so powerful in one area, but yet so weak in another area. Come on, someone. Is anybody awake this morning? So powerful in one area, but then if they look at our lives from the lens of another aspect of our life, we are so weak in that area. It's okay, God's still working in us. And see, and no one understands this but you and God. No one understands it but you and God. And we never said we're perfect, but we do serve a perfect God. And see, it's funny because people like simple things. People like simple things. But once they find out that you're complicated, come on. I didn't know you had all that baggage, right? I didn't know you had all that. That wasn't on your bio. Once they find out that you're complicated and you're so good in this area, which I was attracted to, but man, now I saw this other area where you're so bad in, man, they start to retreat. They start to walk out and they start to leave. Why? Because people like simple things and they don't like complications. As it is, my life is so complicated enough, and now to link and hook up with another complication, forget about it. And he fell in love with a woman of the people that are dominating his people. He fell in love with a woman from the enemy. He fell in love with the oppressor, or the woman from the oppressor. Samson's life was complicated. Isn't it funny how we can be anointed, we can be called, we can have a life of purpose, but yet it's complicated. It's complicated. And what's funny about this is that the Bible tells us that it was from the Lord. It was from the Lord. Man, God, I thought following you was going to be easy. I thought you were just going to make a way for me and it was just going to be easy. All this was from the Lord. The parents didn't know that this hookup, the parents didn't know that this marriage, the parents didn't know that this relationship, that it wasn't just from Samson and this woman, it was all from the Lord. See, and we know how this marriage ends. This marriage is of the Lord, and we know how it ends. Wait a minute. I got to pause and talk about this for a moment. We know how this marriage ends, right? But if it's from the Lord, I thought everything from the Lord works out. We know how it ends, but wait a minute. Isn't this from the Lord? Isn't this from the Lord? Doesn't everything from the Lord work out? What is going on here? We have a failed marriage. We have a marriage that's torn apart, but this marriage was from the Lord. But the Bible tells us that it just didn't work out. So that raises a question in me. If it's from the Lord, why wouldn't it work out? How can something be of God and yet fail? How can something be of God and yet not succeed? How can something be of God and yet not be fruitful? How can something be of God and then everything just fall apart? Have you ever thought that you had something that was from the Lord and they all just broke apart? Come on, someone. Have you ever had that you had something from God and you were sure of it? Like Samson, he said his father and mother were like, isn't there anybody else? And he told his father, this is it, Father, just get her. He was certain about it. And they didn't know it was from the Lord, but then everything just fell apart. Have you ever been in a situation, in a time in your life, when you were sure you had something from God, but it all just fell apart, and you stand there questioning everything because you thought it was from God, and you're like, God, how could it be from you? And then look at it now. Have you ever said, I thought this was from God? How can something be the will of God and still go wrong? How can something be the will of God and still go wrong? It's because the will of God is not meant to please us. Come on, someone. The will of God is not meant to please us. The purpose is never about us, it's about Him. Sometimes the will of God doesn't align with our will, and that's why we can stand there saying, wait a minute, I thought, and God answers, well, you're looking at your will, not at my will. You're trying to live life through your purpose and not my purpose. Jesus prayed before He went to the cross. Is there some way around this? And He ended the prayer saying what? May your will be done, not mine. The will of God is not a warranty that you won't have any problems at all in life. And we need to understand this because sometimes we can be walking under the will of God and everything in our life can be coming to pieces, being destroyed. But it doesn't mean that you're out of the will of God. It just means that the will of God is being manifested in your life. Come on, someone. Someone need to hear that this morning. Jesus was sent to meet confrontation at the desert for 40 days. He was later sent to the cross, but all this was the will of God. His parents didn't know that this was from the Lord. They didn't know that this was the will of God. If they would have known that this was the will of God, that this was from the Lord, they would have probably been for the marriage, but they were against the marriage. And everything started to break loose or come apart because of this woman. See, God will not give you the full picture, but He will show you a glimpse of what's to come in your life. And we see Samson here, and we read about his story, and it's just a glimpse of the rest of his life. If you know his story, he will forever struggle with betrayal, and he will constantly be in a fight. You read later ahead about Delilah and again betrayed. And you read about his life and it's a constant fight with the Philistine. But when a man's steps are ordained by God, it also means that the bad steps are also ordained by God as well. So if your steps are ordained by God, that means that every bad step you take in life is also ordained by God. Someone give glory to God for that. Because sometimes we take some very bad steps. But that's okay, because if our steps are ordained by God, that means that His steps, that even the bad choices we make, even the bad decisions, the bad mistakes that we make in life are ordained by God. And sometimes He will turn that around and work it towards our good. We are nowhere near perfect, but we do serve a very perfect God. We do serve a very perfect God. So don't be so bad on yourself. Sometimes you got to look in the mirror, forgive yourself, shake it off, and keep on walking forward. Because your steps are ordained by God. Yes, even the bad ones. Don't look at your neighbor, but yes, even the bad ones. Even when things are going wrong, they are also right. And I want to talk about this party for a moment, the riddle. He wanted to marry this Philistine woman, and he threw a party. And they knew how to party. The party was 7 days long. Man, come on. Man, imagine we lived back in those days. That's a party right there. 7 days, my gosh. Sometimes I'm like 30 minutes into a party. I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go home. 7 days, 7 days. Samson gives a riddle over something that happened when he went to go to meet this Philistine woman. Do you remember that part? And this party, he gave a riddle. And whoever figures out this riddle gets 30 blessings. And the riddle is based over a past experience. But they used the woman to get the answer out of him. They used the woman to get the answer out of Samson. And Samson gives her the answer. Can I tell you something? Just because someone is intimate with you doesn't mean that you can always trust them. Should I say it again? Just because someone is intimate with you doesn't mean that you can always trust them. And marriage is not just a partnership in love, it's also a partnership in mission. In mission. And before you hook up with someone, you got to see what type of mission they're on. Just because someone is intimate with you, and it doesn't always mean physically intimate, it can mean like intimate in you telling them secret things. It doesn't mean that you can always trust them. She betrays him and gives the answer to the enemy. She betrays him and gives the answer to the oppressor. She betrays him and gives the answer to the people who he was sent to deliver his people from. And because of this betrayal, an anger grew in him, and the anger leads him to attack the Philistines. And the Philistines come back with another attack. It was all the will of God. See, God never meant for this relationship to work. He never meant for their relationship to work. He wasn't about Samson's life or relation or marriage. He was about his purpose, and he never meant for this relationship to work. The anger started to put him, listen to this, the anger started to position him in a place where God needed him to be. The anger drove him and placed him in a position where God wanted him to be. Are you with me, church? Are you with me? Isn't it funny the way God sometimes uses our emotion towards the benefit of his purpose? God used it to put him in another dimension. God used his anger to put him in another dimension. If you have anger issues, guess what? God can use that too. God can use that too. Samson had a bit of an anger issue, and God said, I'm going to use that right there. I'm going to put him in a position where his anger is going to benefit my purpose. We have a Romans 28:28 God, which says, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Not our purpose, but his purpose. And if we're living for his purpose, he uses everything in our life to manifest his purpose, not our purpose. It's not just it's not just the ones that helped you, but it's also the ones who hurt you that will drive you to your purpose. Man, it's not just the ones that helped you, but it's also the ones that hurt you that drive you to your purpose. Sometimes we thank God for the ones that helped us, but hey, sometimes God puts somebody in our life to hurt us, because if they don't hurt us, we will never go to our purpose. Come on, someone. Samson got mad, and then he got creative. See, the creativity never came out of him unless he would have gone angry and mad. His anger would have never happened, and the dimension in which it happened, if he had never been hurt in such a way. Extraordinary hurt plus extraordinary anger equals an extraordinary purpose. Extraordinary hurt plus extraordinary anger equals an extraordinary purpose. Is this helping anybody out this morning? If it is, I want you to get ready, because after this, I'm going to do an altar call. Now, I want you to get ready. I don't want you to hold back. I want you to run up here whenever we do it. Yes? Are you with me? Is this helping anybody out this morning? See, the Bible puts it this way. It was good for me to be afflicted. It was good for me to be hurt. It was good for me to be down. It was good for me to be broke. It was good for me to be lonely. God also takes our circumstances and our lives to shape and mold us. Not to destroy us, but to shape and mold us and put us together. You wouldn't have fought that bad if you weren't hurt that bad. You wouldn't have fought that bad unless you were hurt that bad. And sometimes we worship at the level in which we were delivered, but guess what? Sometimes we fight at the level that we were hurt. Come on, someone. Sometimes we fight back at the level in which the hurt came into our lives. You got to raise it up a little bit. You got to raise it up. Samson will always struggle with trusting the wrong person. His enemy will fail until they get to Delilah. And in this circumstance, the wife was given away. In verse 20, it says, so his wife was given in marriage to the man who had been Samson's best friend oh my gosh, come on. Hasta eso. Not only was the woman taken away, but now she's given to the guy that stood next to him in his wedding day. He wouldn't have fought that bad unless he was hurt that bad. Samson's wife was given away, and given away to the best man at the wedding, guys. Man. This was the opposite of dos mujeres un camino. This was dos hombres un camino. And to top it off, listen, he never gets her. He never gets his wife. He never gets what he liked. He never gets what he wanted. He never gets her at all. And it was all part of the will of God. I need you to understand that, because there are people that you didn't get in your life because it was the will of God. there were people that you didn't get in your life because it was the will of God. See, it's the opposition that drives you sometimes. It's the opposition that pushes you. It's the opposition that makes you say, oh yeah? It's the opposition that gets you out of bed sometimes. It's the opposition that drives you. It's the people that say that you're dumb. That pushes you to study. Come on. It's the people that sometimes tell you you'll always be poor. Come on. That pushes you to say, oh yeah, I'm going to work on my finances. I'm going to get a strategy in this. I'm going to start tithing. Oh, don't get quiet on me. It's the people that say that you'll never have nothing that drives you to get something. And God, listen, sometimes God puts those people in your life not to bring you down, but to provoke you. God knows what provokes every single one of us. He knows what provokes us. Come on. The Bible tells us in the Old Testament that he hardened the heart of Pharaoh so his people will go and worship. If Pharaoh's heart wasn't hardened, would his people ever go worship? And sometimes God lets a little bit of oppression come to us, because if not, come on, Papa, we would never leave. Sometimes he lets a little oppression come to us, because then we start saying, I got to go to church. I need to get my butt back in church. He knows what provokes every single one of us. And let's go back to this riddle. Where does it come from? What's this meaning behind this riddle? Something that happened when he was on his way to see this woman, this Philistine woman. Do you remember the riddle? Verse 6 tells us, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him so that he tore the lion apart with what? With what? He didn't even have a microphone in his hands. With his bare hands, as he might have torn a young goat. But he told neither his father nor his mother what he had done. Then he went down and talked with the woman he liked. Here we go. Sometime later, when he went back to marry her, he turned aside to look at the lion's carcass. And in it, he saw a swarm of bees and some honey. He scooped out the honey with his hands and ate as he went along. That means that he didn't just have enough for that moment. Have you ever gone to the movies? You had a big thing of popcorn and it lasted you throughout the movie, and then you took it home and it's still there for a couple of days because it's so big, and it's in abundance. In this sense, it was an abundance. I need you to capture that. He scooped out the honey with his hands, and he ate it, and he ate as he went along. When he rejoined his parents, he gave them some, and they ate too. Wait a minute, there's enough for everybody? But he did not tell them that he had taken the honey from the lion's carcass. Let's talk about this for a moment. We have a young Samson versus a young lion. Are you ready to rumble? What is it, Laz, when you have the cards of the wrestlers, when they have their bio and all that? The cards, the wrestling cards? We have a young man versus a young lion. The challenge that stands in front of him provokes the power that is in him. The challenge that stands in front of him provokes the challenge, or provokes the power that is in him. See, Samson becomes aware. Listen to this. Samson becomes aware of what is in him when he meets the roaring lion. Ah, man, you're missing it. Samson becomes, I didn't know I had this. I didn't know I could do this. I didn't know that was in me. Samson becomes aware of what was deposited in him when he confronts the roaring lion. See, the roaring lion, it equates to power being released. When the lion roars, it's either a fight or flight. If the lion roars in your life, you're either going to fight or you're going to flight. It's not complicated at all in this situation. You either fight or you give up. You either lay dead or you fight. And when the lion roars, the Spirit of the Lord comes upon him. We have the young man versus the young lion. Probably neither of them have lost a fight until this point. They were at the height or peak of their youth. And they stand face to face. Who do you think would have won? Looking at this fight. When the lion roars, the Spirit of the Lord comes upon Samson. See, he fights him. He fights him empty-handed. He fights him barehanded. Wait a minute. So we look at the fight. We see the young lion, and at the might of his strength. And then we see a young man empty-handed. Not with a spear, not with a sword, not with a hammer, not with a bat, not with a Nerf gun. Empty-handed. If you have something in your hand, you might have had a chance. But what if you faced your challenges and you have nothing? What if you have nothing? You're not equipped to fight lions. Samson was empty-handed. He didn't go into this fight equipped to fight a lion. If you look at the fighters in this match, the lion should win. Am I wrong? If you look at the fighters in this match, the lion should win. I would have bet on this. The lion would have won. I don't bet. The lion was wrong because he was looking at the outside. The lion was wrong because he was looking at the exterior of Samson. And Samson did not look like a threat. How do I know this? Because the Philistines were asked themselves, where does he get his strength from? See, he didn't look strong from the outside, but there was something that was inside of him that he didn't know he had until he fought the lion. Are you with me, church? People are saying you're going down. People are saying you look poor. People are saying you look weak, but they don't know what's inside of you. People might see you from the outside and they might say, este no va a hacer nada. They might say he's not going to go anywhere. They might say they have nothing to offer, but they don't know what God deposited inside you. They don't know the ministry in you. They don't know the anointing in you. They don't know am I talking to anybody this morning? They don't know the purpose within you. They don't know the mighty God that lives within you. Like this guy, come on, really? And he killed the lion with his bare hands. God is going to give you the victory even though you have nothing in your hand. God is going to give you the victory even if you have nothing in your hand. It doesn't matter if you're empty-handed or not. What matters is the lion that isn't opposing you, that's not opposing you. What matters is the lion that's in you. Come on. God is going to give you the victory with nothing in your hands. And some of you might have been walking in here today saying, I have nothing in my hands. I'm going to lose this battle. I'm going to lose this struggle. I can't overcome this opposition porque no tengo nada. But God is saying, that's where I need you. Because if you had something in your hands, you might say, I might have a chance. But since you have nothing in your hands, now you got to draw close to me. And the Bible tells us those who draw close to God, He will draw close to them. Because it's not by our might, it's not by our power, but it's by the Spirit of the Lord. See, in your conditions, if you're looking at your conditions this morning, and your conditions might not be right for the devil that you're fighting, if your conditions are not right for the struggle which you're dealing with, if the conditions aren't right within your life to defeat the enemy that you're fighting this morning, God will give you the victory even though you have nothing in your hands. That's how I know that it's the Lord. That's how I can say, this is definitely God, because I didn't have nothing. No tenía nada. And look at me now. That's how I know it was God, because if it was me by myself, I would be dead. But this is how I know that I got from nothing to something. Are you ready for this? I'm going to ask the worship team, they can join us up here this morning. We're going into this time of Sabbath. And I want to launch you into this time with a victory in your hand. I want to launch you into this time knowing that you got a sweet victory. Are you with me? See, the death of the lion, listen, the death of the lion is the birth of his ministry. I repeat that. The death of the lion is the birth of his ministry. Killing the lion was when he was aware what was in him. Samson leaves him dead and continues on his way. He leaves him dead and continues on his way. Listen, if you go through something that others cannot go through, it's a sign that you're anointed for that thing. Not everybody goes through it because they're not anointed to go through it. But you went through it and you overcame and you kept on going. That means that you're anointed to go through it. That's when we keep asking, why us, God? It's because you're anointed to do it. You have been anointed to do what others cannot do. When he comes back from this town, Timnah, to the place where he killed the lion, he starts to see what? Anybody remember? He starts to see these bees flying around. There's the lion, there's the carcass, and he starts to see these bees there. Now there's more to the story. The killing of the lion was created for the bees to have a place. The killing of the lion was created so the bees could have a place. The place of victory was created so the bees could have somewhere to live. It's not about us. It's not about the lion. It's about the bees. And sometimes we can look at the oppression and see it so great that we forget that there's a purpose for it. It was never about the lion. It was about the bees having a place to live. the victory was not about Samson, it was about the bees. Inside the carcass there is honey. Honey coming out of his greatest struggle. Without the fight, there would have been no bees. Without the bees, there would have been no honey. For every fight, there was some honey. When he saw the honey, he dipped his hands and got the honey. The hands, wait a minute. When he saw the honey, the hands that were bare, the hands that were empty, came out full. The hands that were bare and empty, that killed the lion, came out with abundance. Stand up if you can this morning. Are you ready for this? And God, I hope we came with some empty-handed people this morning. I hope we came with some empty-handed people this morning because God's about to fill them up. 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 I don't know. Close your eyes right there where you're at. And as the worship team gets ready to lead us into worship, I want you to just start thinking about God. I want you to start thinking about your victory already. Because God's fixing to fill your hands up. It doesn't matter what type of battle, what type of fight, what kind of struggle. If you're empty-handed this morning, God's about to fill you up. God's about to fill you up. Can we have the prayer team up here, Cindy, Raul? God's about to fill you up. Stand up here, please. Just get ready for the people. You went into battle with nothing, but you are coming out with abundance. You went into battle with nothing, but you're coming out with abundance. You went into battle with nothing, but you're coming out with abundance. See, there's a sweet victory. It's not just a victory, there's a sweet victory. There's a difference between a victory and a sweet victory. If you were selected as most likely to succeed when you graduated and you got a great job, that's a victory. But if you failed, you didn't go to school, you struggled to get your GED, you had to get tutor after tutor, but somehow you stumbled and you passed and you still got your GED and you got even a greater job than the one that was selected most likely to succeed, man, that's a sweet victory right there. That's a sweet victory right there. And God isn't just about giving you a victory, He's about giving you a sweet victory. He's not just about giving you a victory, He's about giving you a sweet victory. And you might have come into this place empty-handed, but God's about to fill you up, church. God's about to fill you up. Lift up your hands if you can this morning and close your eyes, because God's about to fill you up. And the honey has been prepared and it's ready. And I want you to get ready, because if your neighbor moves or doesn't move, you might have to tell your neighbor, move aside, because I'm going to go get my honey. I'm going to go get my honey. Close your eyes real quick. Thank you, God. We thank you, Lord. We stand before you with a heart full of expectation, believing that you are working in all things for us, my God. This morning we are asking for a sweet victory. This morning we are asking for a sweet victory, all the way from the back to the front, Lord. All the way from the left to the right, God. We are asking for a sweet victory. We dare not look at what we have in our hands, because they might be empty, God. But we know that you are not an empty king. We ask today, my God, for a breakthrough. in every aspect and area of our lives. Lord, let this victory be the kind of victory that silences every doubt. Let this victory be the type of victory that increases our faith. Let this victory be the type of victory that magnifies your glory in our lives. Let this victory be the type of victory where everyone can know that there is a God, a sovereign God that still sits on his throne, that defeated death. Let this type of victory be the type of victory that reminds the devil of his place in our life.